Hello and welcome to Art Talk, the place where we agree to disagree, if we disagree, that is. And today's guest comes from Argentina. It's Carlos Sanchez. Our topic is Some Things I Can Change. Hello, Carlos. Welcome to Art Talk.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this invitation, Rene.
It's early morning in Argentina. It's an area in the world I have never visited, so I'm very pleased that my tentacles with Art Talks are reaching the far corners of this globe. Just to introduce you a little bit to my viewers, though I don't have much to say in terms of biography. Carlos' biography will, as usual, be in the description of the video, and I will ask him a few pointed questions. But just so that you, dear viewers, have a feeling of how I got to know Carlos, how we got to know each other. There was a global Reiki working group, which and this is in the time before the pandemics, where we met once a month in an online conference, and I had the honor to be a member of this group of people, and Carlos was a member of that group. He has been a long time associate of the Reiki Alliance, and of course of Phyllis Lei Furumoto. God bless her, rest in peace. And this is how we got to know each other, right, Carlos?
Yes. That was through an invitation that Phyllis made to some of us, Reiki practitioners, to spoke about her succession. It was a group that we worked hard. And it was a good training before the pandemic at least for me, to be familiar with working in a virtual way. And also using this, as you said at the beginning of this, using these virtual possibilities that we have now, the internet, and how easy it became to be in contact, to record, to see each other, and to have good conversations.
Yes. And then we got to talk to each other for the first time one-on-one online, only I think 2 weeks ago or so, when you agreed to a preliminary conversation about the possibility of this conversation today. Let me ask a few quick, rapid questions. And you just give me a brief answer, so to get to know you a little bit. Your nationality is? Carlos,
I am an Argentinian that has double nationality, also an Italian citizen.
Oh, so we're almost compatriots.
Almost.
Yeah, I read that actually a lot of the Argentinian population today, its roots are more in Italian people than in Spanish people, I believe.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, Argentina had a lot of immigration at some point in history. And so I also have roots from Spanish roots, Danish roots. Yeah. Mixed.
Okay. Let me continue with my rapid questions. How old are you?
I am 63 today.
Today?
Yeah, I mean, sooner I will be 64 in a month.
Okay, all right. So it's not your birthday today. No. Do you have children?
I do have 4 children. They are, grown-ups. I do have grandchildren too.
Congratulations. Mine is visiting me in 2 weeks' time. He's living in Germany, so it's a blessing to have grandchildren. You met Reiki the first time, when was that?
It was in 92, 2002, through a German master. I was initiated in first degree in Buenos Aires city by a German master that used to travel to Buenos Aires and meet the German community there.
Oh, okay. And you became a Reiki teacher when?
In 95. Same Reiki master. I traveled to Germany to be initiated as a master.
Oh, okay. And since then, you have been teaching Reiki 1 and 2, and presumably you've also trained teachers yourself?
I did. Not that much. I waited for many years until I felt it was time for me to do that. And yeah, I do that.
I'm interested in this process just as a matter of curiosity before we get on our topic. So you waited, and you were waiting for a sense that you were mature enough to train other masters, or describe that a little bit. What were you waiting for?
I love the question. I was waiting for, because I felt that I had to wait. When as you said, I was a member of the Reiki Alliance. And at the time I met the Reiki Alliance, there were a lot of changes about for how long you have been a Reiki master before you were able to initiate a Reiki master. It was changing at that time. At the very beginning, it was not that clear that we needed some time to mature in our own mastership, to be in our path of master, to pass on what we received. I always do something that is very simple, but I said, I love cooking. And I said, if I pass on to you the recipe of a cake that I just saw on TV, it's one thing. But if I pass on to you the recipe of the cake that I've been cooking for some years, it's a different way that I'm going to talk about this cake. And this recipe will be the same. So as I waited until just saying, okay, I will wait for some years, 10 years at least. And then it was clear to me that it was okay. And I also took time to train my students and for them to practice enough time before being Reiki masters.
But if I understand you correctly, there was a defining moment where you sensed by yourself, you came to the insight, now I have come to the point where I have reached a level of maturity which allows me now to train other teachers. Was that a purely internal decision for you, or was that did you speak to your master about it? Did you how was that for you?
Everything, all together. At that time, I was I talked to Philly Furumoto about that, and I already made some training with her in training masters and preparation of masters. And when I did it, I really felt that I had a clear picture of what was next. Also thinking what will help Reiki in terms of more people teaching Reiki, and what will help Reiki as a movement to stay in the world, to be to remain in the world and to be practiced as we do, and for the good of the people and the world.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and fascinating process. And I don't think that there can be a recipe or a law dictating and deciding that. And what fascinates me very often is that my observation is that Reiki teachers sometimes tend to procrastinate the decision to train others out of security. But of course, on the surface, it's very noble sounding arguments. Oh, I'm not mature. I need to be more spiritual, or whatever their arguments are, which are fine. There's nothing wrong with aspiring for unfolding of spirituality. And conversely, we have just recently, my wife and I experienced where we have had a master in training, and she has consciously or subconsciously postponed the graduation date because she realizes that the moment she's graduated as a Reiki master, to some degree, she's on her own. There is a level of autonomy, right? So I can see you know this process.
Right, I know this. We had a thing in Argentina, as we have a lot of Italian roots. We, when you cook gnocchis, some of them are pop up very, very, very fast. It doesn't mean that they are all ready. And sometimes for us, it's that we have some bubbles or some gnocchis, and we think that we are ready, and we are not also. We need to feel that we are, whatever it means for each one of us. But also being aware, for me, that some things take time to mature in ourselves, and that we sometimes can't foresee what time will bring to us. So I think that we need to wait for a while and somehow assimilate our experience. At this time may mean some years.
Yes, I quite agree with you. I like the idea of comparing the maturity of a Reiki teacher with the emergence of gnocchi at the surface of the boiling water. Excellent. And in a way, of course, we are exactly on our topic. Our topic today: some things I can change. And when we had our preliminary discussion, we were going through a number of possible topics, and we ended on that one. And actually, we started off with saying some things I cannot change, and then we said so. And of course, this is, if I may just pop this up, this is obviously reminding us of the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Grant me patience with changes that take time, appreciation for all that I have, tolerance of others with different struggles, and the strength to get up and try again one day at a time. I find this a very beautiful prayer because it's free of dogmatism of a church. Okay, it addresses the concept of God, but I think that even an agnostic person could substitute it with consciousness or a description more palatable to them. And I actually have found recently politicians in Germany quoting from this prayer. So our topic, some things I can change, is directly relating to that prayer. I don't think we realized that. Did you realize that, Carlos, when you and I spoke?
No, but when I was talking to a friend about this invitation, and I appreciate, by the way, thank you for the conversation, for the preliminary conversation that was so rich in content. And So I talked to a friend about this, our conversation, and how we ended up with this topic, and he just said this prayer. So it was, in the timely manner that you also found it, or that's the energy we are in, no? What the kind of what can we change, what we can't change.
Exactly. And actually, one of the rapid questions I omitted to ask, I forgot, was what are your other professions? And
yeah, as a profession, I work as with Bach flowers, the remedies that were created by Dr. Bach in Wales 1,000 years ago. I started with this before finding Reiki. And so I have kept this as an offer to some people, to clients. And I also am a farmer as a profession. And this also have been something that I had to match with my Reiki practice. And as nothing is so flat, even if I live in a flat country or in a flat area of this country, I had to go with the cycles and the seasons and the times of working with both being a farmer and my Reiki practice. And sometimes I can interact both of them, sometimes I can't. Are separate things, or they seems to be separate words, different words, but not in myself. So yes, a farmer.
And I didn't realize that when we spoke 10 days ago, and I would have never expected it, and that's great. And you told me also about the changes, or rather how farming and your other profession, the farming profession, is confronting you with the flexibility which is being expressed in that very prayer, that you have to adopt to change of nature, and so on. And I know that socially you are also a very committed person. You're supporting and helping your communities, not only within the Reiki community or the farming community, but you're an active citizen with we had an art talk some time ago about the responsibilities we citizens have, civil responsibilities. And I think from the sense I get that you're quite actively involved there too. So would you, Carlos, please talk a little bit about the fluidity of change, the flexibility, in whatever field, whether that is farming or whether it is social engagement or anything else. And particularly, I'm interested in the fluidity, the flexibility versus the needs to still be honest to one's own commitments, to one's own values, to one's own integrity, because that's sometimes a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
It is. I agree. Yes, I'm committed with an organization that searches for the grandchildren. It's an organization founded by grandmothers, and it's called Grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo, Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo. It's well known all over the world. During the years of the dictadura here, the military government, very violent government, they stole a lot of children. And the grandmothers, babies actually, some of them were born in, like, that's the word, clandestine, hidden concentration camps that they had, and they stole the children. So the grandmothers start searching for them. And yeah, some years, and for me it was something like, what are we going to do with all this pain in this country? How are we going to heal? Is it, just Reiki enough, doing a Reiki treatment enough to myself or someone else, or should I go out and do something more and be more active? I also had some other hobbies at that time, and we were doing a film for this organization. And the president of this organization said, I would like people to commit with our work and not only say, you are doing very well, you are doing very well. And I felt myself, Carlos, this is for you. You need to do something. There is something you can give. There is something you can give support and see what they need and go for it, what you have to give them. And yeah, well, it was a nice process. And I've been there for many years now, for 18 years working with them. I am just one of the activists, not any main one. We are several of us in this country, several, that we created a net to support this work and working with people that do not know where their origin is, adopted or with doubts, and helping them to contact this organization. So for me, that was a process of going out of myself, going out of my Reiki world, let's call it, just go out and do what is needed. What is needed if you can, if I can, if Carlos can. So I just, and this has been one of the most rewarding things I have done in my life. Yeah, and every time we found one of these grandchildren, for us it's a joy and a big celebration.
And these grandchildren are then united with their original families?
When they choose.
If they choose, yeah, when they
if
choose.
they choose, they are given this is there are several steps in this process, but everything goes under legal terms. So it has to be proved. There is a bank of genetic bank of the families, and then they have to go under test. They have to be under this compatibility, should show that they are really from that family. The grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo, some years ago, when all this process of genetics started, they read about, these are amazing women in the world. There are amazing women all over the world. These women for this country are amazing. So they read about the genetic discoveries that you can prove that parenthood, that you are, and so they went to the States to interview those that were doing this research, and they asked if it would be possible to prove that you are the grandparent of someone. And they did this research, and they created this. And so they created what is called the Index of Grandparenthood. And so you can prove through genetic studies that who are your grandpa and your grandma, who are they? So in this country, this has to be done and has to be proved that they come from that family. So this goes until a legal process where a judge calls them, tells them this, and they are given the opportunity to meet the family of origin. And for some of them, it took them years. Some of them are really searching for that and they are already searching. And some of these grandchildren have been found in Europe and in the States. Yes. So it's a one piece that connects me with things that I cannot change this very cruel and violent past in this country. But we can heal our relationship as a society. We can look for this and see what can we do in there and really do something. There is always something that we can do in this regard.
Yeah, and this is why it's so nice that we actually put our focus on the positive side. I can change some things. There are things I cannot change.
No.
And the fact is that all of us, sooner or later, well, maybe not all, but most of us are going through changes in life. And in those changes, we are asking ourselves, who am I? Where do I come from? Who are my parents? I mean, even children who grew up with their biological parents know the phenomenon that they have gone through phases where they have doubted whether they're actually in the right family. It's apparently a psychological phenomenon. But the point I'm driving at, and as an adopted child, I know that very well, that most adopted children, the very most adopted children, sooner or later would want to know, who are my biological parents, grandparents, where I'm coming from. So this is a massive humanitarian engagement to make sure that such children, and of course the grandparents too, that they have the possibility to be united. But as you didn't point it out, but it was implied when you said, if the child wants. And I believe that in Argentina, there is a law which says that if adopted children do want to know, the society need to make sure that they have a way of finding out. Is that right?
Well, it's due to this whole process. Some laws were changed about adoption and everything. But what we call appropriation, which is you do not say that you adopted a child. You just find a doctor who is your friend and says that you gave birth at home. And so no one knows where the children comes from. And so that was the way that they did this with these children. They were not adopted, they were, somehow illegally appropriated, we say.
I understand.
And then the military government did not create that. It was being done already in Argentina. For someone who did not want to say, I need to adopt someone, or, saying, and so it's changing in Argentina. Now, after that, everyone who is adopted could trace the papers, let's say, and go and find where he or she was born, hospital names, until some age. But many of them came from this hidden origin. So now it's a very new thing, and for me it's like, wow, are we going to do that? Every not only a child, adult that was adopted in Argentina could go to an office in the government and say, I want to know my roots. And they will open a process for that, for everyone in the country, which is a work that we just started in this organization. And it will, it's so big that we have no idea how much it's gonna take us. But it's for me, it's also looking into the future.
Yes.
It's also a thing that will of into the future more than my own life, I think. And we will create a different kind of thinking about adoption. For me, this is so important that we also need to think differently about how we as a society behave when we and we need to think about a society that could take care of each individual, each member of the society, and think more about we as a community that may be able to grow children when there is someone who can't do it. There will be another one who may take care of that. And I hope for this to change in our minds. And also, for me, this is about the things that we can change. If I cannot change, I may be able to see that this thing, whatever, needs to be changed. And maybe find someone who may do it or help me or...
What you describe to me is very much the spirit of reconciliation. I mean, you're describing reconciliation taking place within families, within tribes. And of course, at the end of the day, reconciliation is always something personal between people. Mm-hmm. And the best way, and probably at the end of the day, the most important place to start with is within the families. And there is hardly a family where there isn't ground for reconciliation one way or the other.
Yeah, and we need to see this as a process, Rene. I love that you bring this topic. We need to see this as a process. It's not something that we are done with reconciliation. Okay, it's already done. Everything is fine from now on. But if we, as you said, while you were speaking, you said, okay, in families and in society in general, this society needs a lot of reconciliation.
Yeah.
And I think what we are looking into now is a world that has a lot of polarities, white and black. And as I read the newspapers all over the world, or some of the newspapers, I see this is not a phenomenon only in my country. It's a phenomenon happening, that seems that there is a lot of polarity. And we came into this yes or no, white or black, I said, and whatever, but only two opposite ways of thinking or being. And there are so many places, by the way, that we can work with reconciliation. By the way, you have done a beautiful work in the Reiki community, Rene. That's another, we did not meet personally, but I met your work. And actually, we met before and had some talks before when I was helping you with the translation of a reconciliation video, beautiful, that you made interviewing Phyllis Furumoto. A lovely work you both did.
Thank you. And you're saying something extremely important, and I'd like to underline it, that reconciliation is a process. It continues. As humans, we very often would like things to have an end. So something has gone wrong, we would like to settle it and then carry on with life, and best to forget it. And that's, of course, a very dangerous thing. And of course, reconciliation is not about forgetting or about agreeing with the wrong which has been done. It has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with liberating ourselves from the burden of the past to go into the future as richer, as more wholesome, as wiser human beings, and make our contribution to prevent that which has gone wrong of happening again. And of course, have the ammunition that the mistakes we are bound to make, that we are quicker and maybe more peaceful in resolving those mistakes. So that's a very important point you made, that these processes, I guess they're going until we have a humanity which is full of fully enlightened human beings. But until such time, I think it's a process which will continue.
I am very interested in doing the process. This time seems to be very far away in the future. But when we are already done, I think that we can do a lot to make it a better world, just by working with reconciliation processes and being more aware of that, and then creating this what I see the product of reconciliation as a new thing that holds all the past, but also brings something new into life.
Yeah. I think that whether it's achievable soon or far in the future, or maybe never at all, I think that's irrelevant. We have no choice. We are here now, and we have actually an imperative. Whether the outcome is in 1 million years or in 2 years, we shouldn't be dictated by that. And frankly, we have seen tremendous. If I'm focusing on the positive, I'm not ignoring the negative. I know there is a war in the Ukraine, but if we're looking at the positive in humanity, there has been so many positive developments which came so quickly, where people have thought this will never happen, and then the Berlin Wall was down, or things have changed. I have a short video clip, maybe towards the end. It's a little bit light amusement, but it's on the topic of change. And this is a little boy pretending to be the president of the United States. Have a look.
By you. It's one person filled with love, and they just have to live it out, so they do something awesome. Then that person is filled with love, and they do something awesome. It just goes on and on and on and on. And the next thing you know, everything's awesome. Some people think it's impossible to change the world.
It's impossible to change the world.
Well, you can see why they could think that. Living in the world with kids who are hungry, people who are homeless, families weren't happy. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else, man. But I do know this, though. Next time you feel overwhelmed or totally alone, remember this. Things don't have to be the way they are. The world is changed by ordinary people. Little people living out big love. And that's what gives the world a reason to dance.
Lovely, thank you. I have a story now.
Please.
A story from yesterday. My grandson is 18, and he helped me. He's one of my Reiki students since he was a child. So I have, the oldest grandson. We always had a relationship with them, very peculiar. And he helps me in the farm. And we were just doing some electric fence yesterday. And I walked in the farm, doing this, and he was trying to create a way to do it differently. And I say, oh, please, go on, let's do it the way we do it. And he said, Grandpa, the world did not change because of the kind of thoughts that you are having. You need to change the world and give it a try to new things. And I love it because it was very real, and what you are sharing with this lovely video clip, but this could be applied to everyday's life, at least for me, and this is also our topic. What can we change? You said there are things I can choose to change. This for me is a very important thing. I can choose to give it a try to change.
I think this is one of the key questions, the choice. Like the little boy said, I can surrender to, well, I can do nothing and the world is bad, and I'm a victim and there's nothing I can contribute. Or I can say, well, yeah, there is something I can do right now. I can do something in the conversation with Carlos at this very moment. I can open my heart. I can be fully here. I can be fully committed. That's a choice I have and the contribution I make in this very, very moment.
Right.
And I think what you just said, to be conscious of that we have a choice, that's I think, the crux. Carlos, we're coming to an end. I would like to ask you, what's the changes you can see, maybe big or very small, maybe just today or maybe for the next 20 years in your life? Both you and I are in the second half of our lives. So I think it's very important that men like us, and women, of course, and anyone, is having a dream of what the purpose of all of this is for the remaining time we have on this planet. So what's your changes you have in the offer?
The truth is that I can't foresee that. If I look back into my last 15 years, or 20, I wasn't able to think about the future in the way it was. What I would like to think about the future is that I do not betray myself. I do not betray who I am. I am able to be myself and hold my values and help the world, whatever way it was. Whatever way it's needed.
So this integrity with your own values, and that's, I think, also the privilege, hopefully, for people of our age, that we have had a rich life, coming to understand what our values are, and now it's time to stay true to them and stick up for them and speak them out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Should we close it here, or do you have some final beautiful wisdom?
My final beautiful wisdom is to say thank you very much. Thank you very much, René, for sharing, and thank you very much for those who are viewing this and take the time to get to know me a little bit.
Thank you, Carlos, for the time you invested. And I'm saying goodbye to Carlos at this point. Thank you, dear viewers. We talk with each other in 3 weeks' time. Well, I'm not sure, because this may be the last our talk before the summer of 2023. We'll have to see, because then there will be a break, how we will continue. So all the best.